Hey, welcome to another episode of Commander Justice. And anyhow, it's been it seems, a week seems like a long time when we don't we're just normally all together, and I think we missed each other at different times. But welcome back, everybody, judges. Hey, that's when you're supposed to all wave and say, hey, thank
Good to
you.
be with you guys.
Thank you to you, to the fans, to being with us today. And so let's jump into some topics that we pulled up from the internet to talk about today. Jalen Daniels, quarterback. So the big thing now, and it's you can see it kind of the gradual approach, but the big thing now is virtual reality training. The goggles and you get to see it. I happen to go to the Apple store, and I know other companies have their own versions of it, but I went to the Apple store and they give you a free demonstration with their Vision Pro, and it is the realest thing ever. I mean, it's scary real. So much so that when someone threw a punch, I was jerking in the seat, trying to move out the way of it. It was just that real. And so I gotta imagine it's an amazing tool to use, and it's going to only help him improve. Because as Judge John always talks about, a lot of it, well, you got the physical part, but a lot of it's going to be mental. And the quicker
Mhm.
you can learn, you could be sitting at
So,
home and you could learn something from that. So,
so this has guys coming at him to sack him and do all that jazz, or just how's
yeah,
that? It
yeah.
does.
And you also get a chance to see like formation. Like you can move your head and you'll see, maybe this guy's covered. You got to go to this guy. You see the safety coming down. Or you can see pre-alignment and all of a sudden people adjust and you got an audible off of it.
Mhm.
I haven't done it, but I would imagine that's it. And then because it's so realistic,
Yeah.
it gives you a chance to
Is
move and do all
this
that.
is this the prelude to the 11 on 11 robots playing instead of us humans? I
You,
hope not.
you know the one thing that's makes the game fun, and even so, I would imagine that you couldn't even use, if you get so technical, especially with refs and first downs and all that stuff, the human error, the mystique of anything can happen, is the thing that makes football great. The personalities make anything great. So I don't think it would ever get to that point, but I do think the game will be adjusted in how people will play it. My thoughts, you guys, judges, anybody want to jump
Well,
in first?
so I definitely wanted to talk about it in terms of like I don't pretend to know the stuff that he's viewing through his goggles. But like you said, it's probably formations. Like you said, a lot of pre-snap stuff. It could also be plays that are happening, and he's going through his drop
100%.
back, whatever. Scenarios. But I
Yep.
wonder from like a CBA standpoint, like obviously guys can do what they want to do on their own time. Quarterbacks and receivers get together in the off season and throw and whatever. But I wonder if there will be some sort of limitations on stuff like that as it pertains to the CBA, and if teams start to adopt this more full scale. If it'll be something that has to be negotiated as like another practice day or another. But I don't think it will. But it'll just be interesting to see how the NFLPA kind of views this It type depends of. on depends on if they're
Well,
making money off of it. You see,
and,
I Yes. think.
and also depend on like coaches, whereas you may have your off day that's supposed to be guaranteed, and they
Right.
take it to where you have no off days. They can log in and check on you and say, I saw that you put in this much time doing reviews and that type of stuff. Yeah, there could be rules. Judge Morning, anything?
Well, I think it's always fun to see different approaches to finding success. I mean, way back in the old days, they would, bring in ballet teachers to teach guys ballet to give them maybe an edge to have a little bit of balance. And so just whatever it is, we've talked about the nutrition side of the game of, creating special drinks and special formulas that are going to help improve the play. But certainly now, when you bring in this new virtual AI situation, it's like, okay, I mean, is it like how, I mean, what happens next? And like, how much better is everybody going to be? And what are they going to, is it going to make the game more exciting or just more formulaic? Like, is it going to be like what John was kind of saying? Like, are we just going to become like very robotic in all these plays? I don't think so, but is that what would potentially happen? Or is it still going to be this organic, like, let's watch what happens on the field kind of stuff?
I think it'll be a lot crisper, and I think that there was a study done where people went through imaging, with their eyes closed, and I think they were imagining shooting like 50 jump shots, and then they actually had to shoot the 50 jump shots, and they did just as well as somebody who had been practicing, because visualization is a huge part of learning. And so I think it just make guys more crisper. And then if they become crisper in it, then quarterback becomes better at it, then the defense person is going to have to become better at it. But ultimately, you can't control a lineman slipping or his hands getting knocked down or something like that. You can't control that. And what are you going to do and how are you going to react off of it? That's those are the intangibles that is the game of football, which I think.
Does this thing also shows him playing in the elements like snow, ice, rain, wind, and all that jazz?
So I don't know what they necessarily use per se. So I can't speak on that behalf. I know he did it in college, and so they were using it in college. And I'm sure they could program it anyway. But that's probably the perfect example. You can show snow. You can show the wind, you can show the ball may move a certain different direction, but you're not going to be able to feel the cold. You're not going to be able to
we know
feel
that,
your hands going numb and all that stuff. So it will get you a step closer, but it's not going to get you there all the way.
I feel like
you could wear these special gloves to make his hands cold
too. Right? You think maybe? I think it'll help certain positions more than others. Like for an offensive lineman, it's hard to simulate someone pushing you backwards. Whereas like a quarterback, at least what they can get out of it is pre-snap stuff. Okay, check downs. They can drop back without any rush, of course. But I feel like certain positions will benefit from the VR more than others. I don't know how you feel.
Well, Ken, did you not tell me? How many times did you tell me that you were the first model for the Madden suit? Madden game, and they put you in these this uniform.
I wasn't first, but I was one of the models for it. Yeah.
But they put you in this apparatus that had these little wires on you, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they can, during the off season, guys put on these suits, and somebody come up against them for some reason could make it heavier, make it feel like somebody pushed against you or something like that. Technology will do stuff like that.
It's a good point. And to your point, Alex, as an offensive lineman, you won't necessarily. You can feel maybe sensors, like you can feel slight pressure on your left-hand side, so now you have to shoot your arm quicker. There will be ways that you could adjust with technology. It may not be something that we could think of right away, but I'm sure there are ways that will get you better. The good thing is that it's not one-sided. So if the offense is going to learn something, the defense will have opportunity to learn the same thing on the opposite side. And I think that will equal it out. But it'll be interesting. I mean, with AI, right? Who knows? Somebody could do a podcast with an AI character that can get all their information and do the whole show, which they're coming close to, and they probably can do it now, but you don't get, somebody saying, "Shut up, Ken, you're talking too much."
We do that anyway. We don't need AI for that. So, oops, I said that loud. Hey, who's our sponsor today, anyway?
Good call. Well, you know what? We got a great sponsor, Johnny. Tell us what we got.
Who is that guy?
Well, Alex. I'm a proud sponsor of the podcast, Alex Estill.
Are you really proud? You're proud.
I am proud. It's awesome.
Right.
It's awesome to be the sponsor of the podcast. It's always great to be with you guys. We handle all your real estate needs in Annapolis, in DC, and Virginia, and Baltimore, anywhere beyond. We help you buy, sell. We love working with investors. We're investors ourselves. So we really kind of have all your bases covered. You can go to estillrealestate.com to contact me directly. And mention that you heard me here on the podcast, and we would love to get feedback from you. So proud sponsor, and it's always good to be with you guys.
And it's huge. Actually, it would be great if you mentioned that you saw him on the podcast. It helps us, and it helps him. So that would be huge. So Thank you, John. Coach Judge John. That was a great segue in there. Okay. Topic 2. There are 2 women that are suing the new kicker, Brandon McManus,
Yeah.
sexual harassment when he played with the Jaguars, and they said they were on the flight to London, and I guess he was groping them or something like that. I'm not 100% sure that's exactly what happened, but they're suing him, and you know, I guess it kind of brings to the realization that even though the management of the past is gone, you know, you're still going to be putting out fires, and it may have nothing. You know, people are going to be people, I guess. I don't know. Your thoughts on it, guys? Anybody want to jump on board? Talk about it.
So he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars, right?
Yeah.
You said?
So they're trying to sue for $1 million, and they said that he groped them or did some stuff on the plane, and that the organization should have protected them from that, and that they didn't. So they're suing him. And it's 2 women, so now you know it's more of a case.
Are these flight attendants or?
I think so. They would have to be because it only
would have to be.
My understanding is that they were flight attendants. I mean, I kind of echo what Ken was saying, and this organization, it's under new management, of course, but this organization, unfortunately, more than perhaps any other organization in sports, has had a recent history with people in the front office and in the team, and all that stuff. So this organization has to be extra sensitive to this type of situation. It's obviously not okay under any circumstances to sexually harass anybody. At the same time, they can't rush to judgment either. They kind of need to do a little fact finding of their own, but ultimately wait for the officials to do the proper investigation and then make a determination on McManus's future. We're all innocent until proven guilty, but that doesn't mean you can't, be supportive and do some good things to bring awareness to this problem.
And that's what the NFL is doing. They're investigating it right now. So, we'll see.
Well, the NFL is investigating. I haven't heard about this, but the NFL is investigating it. Yeah, not the Commanders, or the Commanders and the NFL is investigating.
I don't know.
Because it was a Jaguar problem.
So I don't know. So it is. I'm sorry. I may be off the boat here. Is he with the Commanders?
He's with the Commanders now.
Okay.
They just signed him, but he was previously with the Jaguars, and this happened with the Jaguars.
Yeah, on one of the overseas flights to one of the London games last year.
So he bringing the problem here. So
it's a
NFL's taking care of it, spillover. So he's bringing that problem.
Yeah,
to
the NFL
Commanders
issued a statement. The Jaguars have issued a statement, and then the Commanders also issued a statement as well.
Oh, okay. This is my first hearing of this. Well, like you said, I agree with what Alex said. Commanders got to be extra sensitive about everything they do because of the past regime, because of the past they have. So yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. I mean, because it's interesting and
everybody got to be extra sensitive. It's just not good for the
but like it's hard at times to it's so you got to really investigate stuff because you don't know. Because I mean I know I've been and maybe you guys have been in situations where I know John gets on me. I may have said something that somebody could have took the wrong way, and now all of a sudden that they're saying that I said something and it could be a big issue. It's you always have to err on the side of you're innocent until proven guilty. I don't know. Have any of you guys had experiences where it could have been perceived one way, but it wasn't, or I don't know.
Well, I would say that I have friends who are flight attendants and they fly on aircraft that works with professional teams. And I think this is very odd because the way that they describe it to me is that they're really not that they really don't have a lot of interaction with the team or the coaches or the executives by design. I mean, they're told. So it would be something really super. So if in fact there was any sort of unusual behavior, and I hope that there wasn't, it must have been really flagrant because there's so many people there also. Like it's like you're on a plane. You're not like in a hotel, like walking down a hallway where if you're on an aircraft, there's just a lot of people around. So I sometimes wonder, like, people are there. I mean, you're on a plane and it's a small little area. So it's like everybody, people
Lots
would
of
have seen
witnesses
it.
on an airplane, that's for sure.
Yeah, and a
People would
lot
have
of times
seen it.
it's perception, right? A touch for you may be a touch for you. To somebody else, it may be a grab. It's perception sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see what
So
happens.
these are two ladies.
It's two ladies. So obviously it makes their case a little bit stronger because it's two ladies that said it was that. And then players, or at least when I played, just going back, players would drink on the plane, after a game, or I don't know if it was after or before, and so who knows what happened or what could happen. Not to a point where anybody's been totally outrageous, and we were even told to watch how we handle ourselves with the stewardess. So that was they tried to make a point of that.
Well, I do remember in 1993, I was when I was with the Cardinals with Ken. Ken and I, we were seatmates. We had the seat together, and I had to nudge him several times and wake him up from a drunken stupor.
That's okay. There's nothing illegal about that.
Ain't nothing legal. Hey, but he got home.
Right.
And you walked into that one, Ken. You walked into it.
I mean, I was trying to go back and remind, like, what is it? Where's this going? Yeah, drunken stupor. Yeah.
He said, take me drunk, I'm home. I mean, take me home.
You rolling them out like you're familiar with all those type of things.
I am, man. I left a meeting yesterday.
It wasn't me. Okay.
Yeah.
Another
little levity right there. Little levity.
Another one. Even though Jonathan Allen has expressed his love with the team right now and the way it's going, the direction, there's still a persistent rumor mill going around that he could be possible trade in the position of it being traded.
Who started the rumor?
How do rumors get started? They started by the jealous people.
Started by you on your way, Ken. That was a good one. Huh?
I know that song.
Yeah.
The Rook don't know that one, see. But go ahead.
I don't know that one.
I know he had that look on his face, like, what in the world are you guys
one.
talking about? It's a song. It's a song back in our day. You're too young
from the
for that.
80s.
Even before he was born, it was.
Yeah, it probably was. I mean, I was late 80s, so if it was before that, I probably don't know about it.
I think it was like 80s,
early 80s, mid 80s,
87.
That was pre my birth at that point.
You know what? It's funny. Like when we talk, sometimes you don't realize how far things, the time difference, the age difference, because it's the cool.
There are things people will say, and I don't get it. And then I'll be watching something like 6 months later, and I'll hear what they said. I'm like, oh, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, and on our side, we don't think about it because we assume everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Okay, Ken. I didn't mean to digress. Diverse to another thing. Jonathan Allen. So somebody said he's trade bait.
Yeah, the potential. Yeah, because while he has value, he's not as they re-signed. Who's the other defensive tackle?
They just drafted the kid Johnny Newton from Illinois.
Right, and then they have Payne, who they just re-signed with a nice healthy contract. So by drafting somebody and then having somebody already locked into a contract, you got a player that potentially has the avenue to be moved or done something with. And I guess a lot of it will probably show as they move into training camp and start playing. And
you said they're looking to do this before training camp or during the season? Or?
Yeah, I think you chalk this up to it's a dead period kind of in the NFL schedule, and people like us, and I'm not saying us, radio,
us, you got to talk about stuff.
Writers, radio talk shows, people that the Washington drafted a defensive tackle. Now they've got 3 good ones, and maybe they're going to trade Jonathan Allen, or maybe they're going to trade Daron Payne. But that's kind of what I chalk it up to. Just like maybe they'll do this, maybe they'll do that. Just not negative speculation, but just like, hey, wondering out loud if they'll make a move. I obviously wouldn't do it. I mean, you've got Johnny Newton's coming off of foot surgery they just had a couple of weeks ago. We're not even sure if he'll be ready for the start of week 1 or even training camp. He's unproven in the NFL. Obviously, it was the Big Ten defensive player of the year last year. Obviously, I wouldn't do it. I think there's no upside. You need depth, especially on the lines in the NFL. If you need depth anywhere, it's on the 2 lines, and I wouldn't do it.
Put the room of the rest. Nice. Good thing we have you on the show. Thank you for straightening that out. That's good.
I think he's auditioned for Chief Justice. I believe.
Oh, oops. Marnie knows from her time. She knows better than me. Having being in the front office and stuff. I wouldn't do it. I don't think there's any real upside to trade him at this point.
You always got to credit teams to always looking for the future, and that's what the NFL is, not for long. They got to build for the future. If there's something and somebody give them something that they just can't walk away from.
Yeah, if it's a first round pick or something, you got to do it. But I think this team, look, once you get to a point where you're successful, Philadelphia's, the New England's, typically the Steelers type, then I can see it. But we have to get good first. And
this is a brand new team organization.
Right. So I think we need to get good first. But then I'm all for, I hate to say this because you guys were players, and New England was notorious for that. They would trade Richard Seymour for a first, a year maybe before he started to decline as a player, but it's better than 2 years too late, So I'm all about that, but this team still has to get good first, and they're not there yet.
Judge Marnie, you guys are in the front office. Does community work? Does that mean anything? Is it all just about dollars and cents and strategy for the future, or is it does the play on the field and off the field, does it have any weight in keeping a player or not?
Well, I think it's such a fine line because ultimately, obviously, you need to figure out how you're going how you're going to create a winning team. A team that wins is more valuable than a team that's not winning. But like Alex said, I think that you need to have some depth. This is a young team, new coaches. Like, I think that right now to be dealing away players that can really add some value, I think you're better off just kind of keeping them because you don't know what you have yet with some of these rookies, and you don't even know what you have with the coaching staff. So I think it's a better idea. It might be, I like to play the long game and the safe game versus just dealing everything and then having like, oh shoot, what did we just do? I think that that is probably not going to be that would not be a good scenario for the Commanders to get into this year.
Well, good scenario. Good point here. Back in the day when Jimmy Johnson, I know we got to talk about this team. It's the NFC East team.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones, new team. They had just fired Tom Landry, and Jimmy was a guru of trading players, getting more draft picks, having veterans on the team. Hey, we'll trade you, Herschel Walker, get more draft picks, and it built the Dallas Cowboys for 5 or 6 years of being 3 Super Bowl champs. So
longer than that,
there's an opportunity for the Commanders to say, listen, we got some guys here we love, they're pillars in the community, whatever, but we can get more pieces of the puzzle to come in and be productive and buy into our system. And our younger players, we have to look into that. Right?
Yeah, I think it depends on the return. I think like if you sit here and somebody said, hey, we'll give you a first and a third for Jonathan Allen, you almost have to do it. But if someone said, "Hey, we'll give you a third and a conditional fifth," and
right.
I think this all depends on what you're actually offered. If you're offered something great, you have to do it. Like
that's why you got to have those great general managers in the building.
Yeah,
it's kind of like what was the pass rusher Sweat? He was off. They were offered a deal that was a really good deal. So they were great like, we gotta give up a pass rusher who was dominant, was a good pass rusher, but the deal's good, and we need.
That was last year, right?
Yeah, this past trade deadline. I think
everybody's kind of scratching their heads, like why would you give up the 2 best pass rushers?
Right. Well, and that was last year. So what I'm saying is
a third for him, and then Chicago upped it. Hey, we'll give you our second round pick, and then we were like done, and that's smart. I'm with that philosophy for sure.
Right. So last year there was an old regime here. They did that, right?
Right.
So now you got the new regime, they benefit from it.
Yeah.
So same thing now, they can benefit from. And I love having players who play. If you manage to play with one team all your career, hats off to you.
Sure.
But you know, we knowing this is a business, and if a better greener pasture out there for you somewhere else, you know, you're not bigger than a National Football League or team. So if this thing's happen, hopefully, you know,
Well,
go somewhere where
I guess though that's the difference between being traded and free agency, where you can go. You know, being traded, you don't know if the pasture's greener. You just put on the block and saying, hey, you're going to this team. Free agency, you have a choice in the matter.
No, the thing about it, yeah, true. But think about it, if you still can walk on Monday afternoon, and pick up the check or get your direct deposit, it's still green. You're still in the league, right? So
yeah. Well, I guess when you get down to it, okay.
if it boils down to it, and you're still playing.
Yes.
My only thing was that at the end of the day, if we get blown away with an offer, obviously that's fine. But you know, Johnny Newton's may not even be ready for week 1, and he's unproven in the NFL, and we already are lacking, you know, on the defensive ends, you know, obviously from trading Sweat and Chase Young last year. So I wouldn't want to deliberately weaken the line unless we got
don't want to weaken it. No.
All right. The new running back, Austin Eckler, just got married in Vegas. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess it was I think they had like 120 something people, 125 maybe. Kind of cool. You know, you're in the prime, go to a new team, you decide that you want to get married. I think they already the wedding either was no kids allowed, it was just adults at the wedding. I don't know if they have kids, but it was just adults at the wedding, and it was in Vegas. So, yeah.
Who married him? Elvis?
That's true. Could have been Elvis.
Could have been Elvis who married.
You know what? I got married in Vegas.
Who married you, Elvis?
I was actually going to ask if any of you guys have ever been married in Vegas.
Yep, we got married in Vegas. Funny story. We got married in Vegas on our wedding day. Me and my wife were mad at each other. So
she said, "Look, there's Elvis."
when she said I do,
he don't like that one.
She said it like she was mad. I said I do like I was mad. We took a limo ride back, and we weren't talking to each other the whole time. So it was,
yeah, that's kind of.
No, well, I mean, we're 35 years in June, so it worked.
It worked.
Yeah, right? It works. But yeah, so. Elvis didn't marry us. We didn't want to go that far. Weddings are. I mean, I don't know. Our kids are of that age where they're going to everybody's weddings. There are a lot of people getting married, and they're more destination type weddings where you got to go places. It's expensive. It's a no joke. I mean,
I'm sure you got 35 years in, Ken. That stuff is not easy.
Yeah,
giving it up.
Well, can we all agree here, especially Ken and myself and Marnie? Can we all agree that the father of the bride? It's a great tradition that they have to pay, right, JB? It's a great tradition.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. JB says, "I don't want to go there."
That's when the brothers start talking.
That's the rook stepped out of turn again. Ken.
Yeah, right.
I gotta say, my father-in-law, obviously, he footed the bill. My parents contributed a little bit, but thankfully we didn't have to pay for our own wedding because it was expensive.
Well, you know what the thing is also, a lot of the kids are paying for their own weddings. You know, tradition is starting to slip a little bit in that sense, which is good because some of the kids have been, in some ways, I mean, I don't know, but some kids are ungrateful that they want these massive dreamboat type weddings, and at the end, ultimately, you can have you've seen these multi-million-dollar weddings, and they're over within a year. Yeah, so
multi-million-dollar weddings. Whew.
Yeah,
it's a waste of money. I mean, think about it. I mean, in ours, my wife went. We did like not really destination. It wasn't in Annapolis, but it wasn't too far away. She was very, cautious about it. We had a lot of people because I have a big family, but yeah, I mean, if you think about how much the wedding cost, and then how many hours the wedding was, it's just stupid.
And when you say big family, how many brothers and sisters for you?
Well, so I'm one of 3. I have 2 sisters, and I'm in the middle. Okay. But my mom is one of 6, and my dad is from a big family as well. So I mean, my family alone was probably almost 150 people. So
Marnie, you have brothers and sisters, or you're only-
I don't. I'm an only child. I have a half brother who I'm very close with, but
and
my
now you got
as
3
my
adopted
mom,
brothers.
yes, I've
Right.
got you guys. And when you are talking about weddings, so I have a daughter, I have 2 boys, and I'm already kind of bracing myself for impact with
yeah,
with that. And yeah, it will probably be but I keep trying to say like something small and simple and beautiful, and that's way better than some gigantic
Yeah.
situation that you don't even yeah, it's just it becomes too just out of control, and you won't really
Right.
yeah,
What
it's too
what what
much.
what do you think is a good price for a wedding?
Just as a piece.
it's hard
How
to
much that
say
cost?
now because
I think that
Yeah.
I think that the current price these days is you have to do it like per person, and I think it's anywhere from like 1,000 to 2,000 person.
Wait a minute.
2,000 per person?
Yeah, when you add in like the food and the flowers and all the stuff, it ends up being like, and the band, and it ends up, that's like
KFC and the radio don't cost that
kind
much.
of, I mean, yeah, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, when I've just back even in, the old days, like $300 a person for a wedding, and that was in the 90s or early thousands. So I think like the going price is between all the stuff, like the invite, everything. I'm talking about every single thing is a minimum of $1,000 a person. So if you have,
Yeah,
that's
no,
being,
I
Goodness.
know my son,
yeah,
I think he paid for a lot of his wedding, and it was a good chunk,
yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the average wedding these days is, I mean, it's probably pushing 50 grand at least.
Oh, at
Yeah.
least, I mean, and that's
Yeah.
at least, and that's if you, I mean,
You
yeah.
guys, have you noticed, by the way, that JB has gone really quiet?
Yeah,
here?
I'm going quiet on that. You
He's
guys
quiet. He's
y'all
starting
have
to
this conversation.
add up in his head how much it's going to cost him.
Yeah.
I'm saying go to Las Vegas, and it's not a destination thing.
That's right. Just
I-
write
I-
them a check.
Just
say,
go
Put up-
call
Hey, is
Elvis.
Elvis still available? Ken, is Elvis still available?
He's still around, but I met John's daughter. I think the wedding will be a more theatrical, so it'll be beautiful, but not necessarily costly, right? I think it'll be she seemed like she's a low key, well, or maybe I don't know, maybe I'm judging her wrong, but pretty low key type of person.
Mhm. Let's get to the joint practices, guys.
Yeah, let's move
Let's get
on.
out of this topic.
because the wedding dresses are even so unbelievably expensive. I mean, $10,000 for a dress. I mean, I have sticker shock, and I look at these things. I'm like, who would
That's a
ever do
car.
that?
Can't you rent one though, or is that
I think you can.
that's
I
that's
mean,
tacky? I guess I don't know.
Listen, my mom for almost 30 years was the VP of the Neiman Marcus in Washington. And I mean, when I would just go into the store to visit and say hi or whatever, I mean, I would be like, look, even if you're really rich, it's still dumb to go in. And I mean, some of these things for like a shirt was like $500 for a button up or $1,000 for I mean, like at some point, look, and I like nice clothes because my mom worked there. So I'm a little bit spoiled by that. But I mean, at some point you're like, this is just a waste of money. Like, I'd rather just buy a different shirt and put the other $500 for something else. Like,
you're investing in the dream.
So wait, I have a funny story though about Neiman Marcus, and I think you're going to know the people that I'm talking about. So my mother a couple years ago needed to get a dress. And so we went to Neiman Marcus in Charlotte and on the fancy dress area. And the sales lady was so lovely. Her name is Irene. And we were talking and I said, oh, it's for the, Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. And she said, oh, my husband played football. And I said, oh, my mom, was involved in the Eagles. And you know who it is? Irene Jacoby, Joe Jacoby's wife.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
that's so cool.
I know.
Mhm.
And then, they're so sweet. She's lovely. And
They're good
Do
people.
they live in Charlotte? I didn't realize
yeah.
that.
Mhm.
That's cool.
They're really nice. I mean,
Yeah.
and both of them she's a big lady too.
Irene is
I mean,
she's very tall and
Yeah.
very statuesque. And, obviously Joe is,
statuesque. I like that. Very nice.
Yes,
Right? I like
she
that
is.
Yeah,
word.
And-
Joe's a big guy. He's like 6'6" or something.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's enormous. I had like an Alzheimer's fundraiser and they were so supportive, and he's just, he is a large man on the field, he certainly was, and off the field, just they're great people. So
Yeah.
Be a Hall of Famer. I can't let that go. That should be in the Hall of Fame.
I agree.
No doubt. And you know what? Winning, like if the Commanders start winning, then I think people will listen a lot more, and it'll bring more highlights to that because he definitely deserves to be there.
I can't even get into it that he's on the Hall of
Yeah.
Fame. I can't get into it. I'll get
Yeah.
angry.
Ken Harvey too, by the way.
You are way too kind, but thank
Gary
you.
Clark
I
should
like
be
that.
in. We got a long list of guys that should be in the Hall of Fame.
But I think the Commanders are going to create their own little Hall of Fame here, and I know it's not the same as there, but it's still kind of, you know, there are players who need that recognition or deserve that, get that recognition, and it would be nice to see. Joint practices. Teams have joint practices. I think we talked about it on one of the podcasts before, but you know, I was thinking about it. It's actually more important to have joint practices now because we don't have as many preseason games. And in the sense that you get a chance to go, case in point, we talked about virtual reality. You can do virtual reality all you want, you can do all this stuff, but when you go against somebody live, it's going to be different because there's little variables, little things that you just may not can control or you have to control. And so joint practices, I think, are good, and it'd be good for the Commanders. I guess they'll have one against with Miami this year.
I think it's great. You know, they've already, and we've also talked about it too. Training camp certainly is much different today than it was when you guys were playing, or in the 70s or the 60s or any era. I mean, there's less hitting, there's less full pads. Again, there's less preseason games, and I think pretty soon we'll go from 3 to 2 and an 18-game schedule. So I think I'm a huge proponent of joint practices. As a fan of the team, I always love it when I hear or read that we're doing a joint practice with the Texans or Miami or Ravens or anybody. I'm a big believer in that. And that extra work I think helps, but you guys obviously could all speak to that better than me.
Well, you know, back in the day when we had 2-a-days, we had joint practices and whatnot. We'd go against the Redskins back in the day, or the Giants when I was with the Jets. So you get tired of hitting each other back then, and there was, even now, guys get tired of going against each other in practice. So we need to go against somebody else that's going to give us a little flair. And these guys, Miami Dolphins, going to bring their attitudes, and the Commanders going to have their attitudes, and everybody's going to be out to compete to win because there's spots on a roster, so many spots on the roster that these guys who are competing to get on that roster, they're going to be competing for to be seen by other teams as well. So it's a good thing. And then you play the game. I do remember one story that I got with the Eagles after leaving the Jets. I was told a story about about the Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons had a joint practice, and they said, "Oh well, all we're gonna do is fight all day, all practice," because Jerry Glanville, I think he was the coach of the African Falcons, and Buddy was with the Eagles, and they had long practices back then. They didn't mind fighting. Get it out of the system, let them fight. So all they did, fight the whole practice. So I don't think this is going to happen because everything's under control, pretty much.
It is, but the fights were like it. They were like, you started to learn that this is kind of like your territory. You learn that camaraderie, right? You know, the fights were like when somebody comes into your house, or if someone hits one of your players, or if it's something, then it's like a family member. You don't mess with my family member. You can mess with anybody else, but you come and mess with my family member, we're going to protect each other. And that's what they try to build. Some coaches would say break it up, but you see them smiling like, yeah, break it up.
And they say when you do break it up, do not grab your own player. You grab the other guy.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I look back and I think about, and of course I'm basing this off of a movie, but I've read a lot about it, so I think it's true. But when Dick Vermeil was the coach of the Eagles, he was notorious for having, really hard training camps. And then back in the day, I also didn't realize this till recently, that they had 6 preseason games as well. That must have really been brutal for the players to go through.
You opened a whole island by yourself at a place where you didn't know, like, man, where are we going? They want you, none but the players there. They didn't want the hoopla around. They didn't want you to stand close to the city that you played in. Well, go ahead.
No, and I remember watching the movie, and they said during his first year that the Eagles finished the preseason 0-6, and I'm like, 0-6, and I actually looked. I was like, damn, they played 6 preseason games that year. I didn't realize that back in the day.
It's hard. Yes, Judge
They
Martin.
would, yes, they would have the games in places that were, kind of places that they did not have traditional preseason or regular football games. So they
Like
had,
barnstorming, kind of.
like Mexico City. I mean, the Eagles played the Saints in 1982, I think, in Mexico City. And my mom said it kind of was a total disaster because you have to travel with all your own stuff and you don't know what they're gonna have there. And that then they would there was always like the tickets were being printed twice, or there was a little shady underbelly of things going on. And then, to try to leave after the game, there was always like you had to take care of the airport people to make sure that your plane got out. There was always stuff like that. But
Wow.
nobody really wanted to go have those preseason games in places like that because it was hot and you were far away and you didn't really know what was going on, and it was a little wild. It was definitely a wild scenario for sure.
And even training camps were at a small college somewhere, out in the mountains or out away from the city. So you had training camps.
The Redskins used to do what Carlisle, right?
Carlisle, yep.
Mhm.
It was a way, and for that place, Carlisle, it was like there were people that became regulars that you knew every year would be at training camp. And
I kind of miss those days where we would go, because when I was a kid, that they were still going to Carlisle for training camp.
Did the Steelers go to Carlisle too, or not?
The scrimmage against us, the practice against.
I feel like the Eagles practice at Widener, which was at least at one point. I don't know where you were doing training camp, John, but I think it was at Widener in Delaware.
Let's where we were.
They were at Widener, like I think that's where they were a couple years, but yeah, like way smaller places that were kind of
because they want to keep the guys isolated, because we were in Flagstaff, in Arizona.
Yeah.
So I remember, it was cooler. One of the things that I think is a fringe benefit of the joint practices is, and this is probably a bad story, but I'm going to say it anyways. When I was a kid, I obviously grew up a fan of the then Redskins, and I'll never forget, Ken, you probably were on the team. You keep, the focus maybe on the enemy instead of your own team, because I remember turning on the news after school. One day I came up from school and was turning on, like the early, like Fox 5 or Channel 4 or something, 4 o'clock news. And they said that there was a huge fight between Michael Westbrook and Stephen Davis out at training camp. I mean, Michael Westbrook like really kicked Stephen Davis's ass. And it was like,
he snuck it, right?
He snuck him. He snuck him.
Yeah, it wasn't, I mean, it was bad on Michael Westbrook's part. It was like, what are you doing, man? Like, okay, you can skirmish a little bit, but you're literally punching your teammate a bunch of times.
Yeah, I mean, and look, there are times I wanted to punch my own teammates. I mean, most people don't do it, and he took, it was bad because
he was a loose cannon from what I.
It seems like a crack in the team. He was like probably one of the most natural, gifted athletes out there. But and I don't want to talk about it because it's a nice person. Just had been used to being the man. And then sometimes it's hard to learn to work being the team as opposed to being the man.
I'll be a little bit blunt. And I mean, as a fan, I mean, he was like the 5th pick in the draft. So I obviously thought that he did not, as a fan, I thought he would have had a better and a longer career than he did. So that I'm sure was part of his frustrations too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He ended up doing mixed martial arts for a little bit, MMA and all that stuff. I see him online every once in a while.
And one thing about training camps and football season, during the season, guys do talk trash to each other. Some guys may not want to hear it that day. Maybe this particular day they were going back at each other, and all of a sudden.
I love Stephen Davis. He was great too. I'm like, what are you doing to Stephen Davis? I'm like, if anybody, he should be punching you.
So some guys talk lip, and then some guys don't know when to stop, and then some guys will take it a step too far, and they'll say stuff that they shouldn't say. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the locker room that people don't hear and don't know, but so, you can let that go.
Maybe we may see some of that action in this joint practice. You think?
Yeah, so, it'll be good. It'll be good, and especially.
I think it's better to focus on, again, when you have joint practices. Some of that can come out against the other team versus a situation like that, because that's one of the worst training camp incidents I can remember as a fan since I've been a fan of the team.
Well, and that, something like that, it goes throughout the league. You know, it
Oh, yeah,
shows
sure.
you like
Yeah.
what your team is. Like you guys are fighting each other, and you're exactly what you said, Alex. It's I don't care if we fight against each other. I get it. You know, guys are gonna get mad
That
at each
happens
other, but
every
because the
training
way it
camp, every
happened,
year,
that
every team.
one kind of snuck the punch on the other one.
Right.
It was just sad to see.
Yeah,
I had a
I remember
teammate.
seeing the video, and I was like, it's like kind of like I don't want to say heartbreaking, but you
Yeah.
feel really bad for
It
Steven
was
Davis.
it was heartbreaking. It was
Feel really
I
bad
had
for Steven Davis.
I had a teammate threaten to beat me up one morning in practice. I'm like, gosh. Then he took it out on the members. Ken wanted to beat me up further. He was like mad at me.
I did. I did. I was looking at you and I was thinking about would I go to jail and where, you know, would this disable him? Would this cripple him? Would this kill him? Which shot would work?
I stayed at him though. I stayed at him. I kept going. He was like, John.
Before we segue,
kept going.
Before we segue to the next thing, shout out Steven Davis. He was one of my favorite players. He was a great running back. I can't believe Steve Spurrier got rid of him, but he had a great career in Carolina and Charlotte.
He came back last year, I think, or the year before. I know I saw him at one of the events.
I love Steven Davis. He's great. He and I are friends on social media and stuff. He's one of my favorite.
How many
players.
years are you in a plan?
I don't know. Probably at least 10. I'll look that up.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of 1,000-yard seasons for us and Carolina.
He was actually he was really good back that was underrated. That didn't get the publicity he probably deserved. Last segment, because our time has actually kind of flown by. It's been about 45 minutes or so. Anything you guys, this is the open segment, anything you guys want to talk about?
I want to mention this, and I think it's really, really cool.
Okay, John, mention it.
Thank you, Ken.
Sure.
Don't get mad at me and beat me up. But I was watching ESPN this morning, and I didn't get a chance to catch it all, but MLB, Major League Baseball, they are including the Negro League stats.
Yeah, nice, yeah.
Which is really, really cool.
Cool thing.
You know,
it's really too late, to be honest with you. They should have done it.
Excuse me?
They should have done it
too late.
Yeah, but, you know, should have. But now they got it, and, you know, you're looking at some of the guys, there were some ballers back then, man.
Yep.
Stat-wise, they would have been up to par with some of the Hall of Famers now, right? I mean, some really good
Washington's own Josh Gibson, you know, great catcher for the Homestead Grays, and based in DC, and he's now the single season batting average champion. It batted 466 one year, which is insane.
Now, it's so great that cigar charity event we went to.
Yeah.
Is that the Washington Grays
they're the DC Grays, yeah. And it's because they are named after the Homestead Grays, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's good stuff. So I think that's hats off to the Major League Baseball for doing that, you know.
And I have to believe that Bob Kendrick, who's the chairman of the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, which is an incredible place, and Bob Kendrick is an incredible guy. You know, kudos to him, because I do believe that he was relentless in trying to advocate for this to happen. And
they've been working on for like 2 decades to get this all the stats and stuff together.
This has been this is something that I know that that they've been diligent about trying to get it done. And Bob Kendrick, who is like I said, he's the CEO of the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City. He is an incredible, just an incredibly knowledgeable man about all, you know, everything baseball, but obviously the real history of the Negro Leagues. And if you guys ever go to Kansas City, I can connect you with Bob, because he is a great guy and you would love him. And he takes such pride in the museum there.
Yeah, I mean, it's long overdue.
Thunder and lightning over here.
Yeah, long overdue that they did that. I mean, to me, it was no different than, you know, taking a AFL quarterback statistics, you know, and so it's like, you know, somebody like Daryl LaMonica, who played in the AFL. It's no different, really, having his stats in the NFL versus, you know, the Negro Leagues in baseball. I think, to me, it should have been the same thing, and they should have been running the same.
Has the NBA done that with the was it ABA?
Yeah, the ABA and NBA. It's another one. It's like they merged the statistics, so it's like, you know, guys that played their first however many years in the ABA, the last few in the NBA, they're all the same. Like Dr. J, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, if we want to have a guest on the show, maybe sometime this season, it'll be fun to get Bob Kendrick on
Yeah.
as a guest. I think
Okay, we could definitely do that.
great guy, and
I
he can
think.
talk about his.
Real quick, because it's running on close to an hour, so but hey, was there something with the was there some ruling where the college players now all get paid?
Yeah.
Okay, what was that? Could you enlighten me a little
So
bit?
basically, the NCAA and the Power Four conferences now, because there's no more Pac-12, basically agreed to a framework where the institutions can directly pay players. I think there's a limit. I think it's like
Is there employment
20
benefit
There's
for
a,
million.
that?
there's a limit, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Say
like
again?
20 million. They've also reached a settlement to back pay some kids from the last handful of years. Um,
Yeah.
it's it's basically college
Damn, we
athletics
missed
now
out.
becoming the minor leagues or like a lesser pro league essentially. I'm happy that kids can get compensated. But there is a massive need for Congress to work with the conferences and the NCAA to kind of get a framework of what that looks like. Because right now, even the commissioners of like the SEC and the Big Ten, like we need some sort of guidance to figure this whole thing
Some
out.
regulations. So will they still be able to do some undercutting, which is like, they get kids this amount of money, but those star players, can they
Yeah,
still make
NIL, this
money?
doesn't have anything to do with NIL. They can still get
Oh,
paid from
Yeah.
collectives and
It's just
whatever,
a
but they're
base.
also going to be getting like a
oh.
base salary essentially from the schools. So I mean, really, it's been called the Wild Wild West, and it truly is. I mean, no one has any clue what's going on, and
Yeah.
I can tell you, as a fan, a huge college football fan, I don't think I would want like I'm obviously a Maryland guy. If I'm Coach Loxley, I'm like, man, I signed up to coach college, and it's drastically changed in his 5 years at Maryland. So, they need some help from Congress on some regulation on this thing.
Yeah. But it is I think, a lot of college
Positive.
players in their careers
Yep.
injured, a lot of things
Yep.
that happen in college and you just kind of washed away and that's it. And so, you pour your heart and soul into playing in
Yeah.
college and you may get a scholarship, but schools are getting billions. Some
Yeah.
schools have gotten
No, it's a
billions off of it.
positive. I'm in
Yeah.
favor. I've always been in
Yeah.
favor of players getting paid. It's just I think what they want is some sort of
Structure.
like the NFL has a salary cap. So like the Cowboys can't just say, okay, I'm going to sign Tom Brady to a $1 billion contract because we can pay for it. Nobody else
Right.
can.
Right.
I think there has to be some sort of framework.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I want to say this about the Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. Before the salary cap came in, there's always the Cowboys and 49ers. They had the big bank. The Barlow, he loved to give money. He loved to spend. Jerry and the Cowboys, they love to give money. But now since we have the salary cap, they got to compete with everybody else. And so the other teams like New England, and the Eagles, and the who is it? Who won the Super Bowl? The Colts and whatnot. Those teams like that are winning Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Cowboys and 49ers are making it to have a good season, making the playoffs, but they're not winning like they used to prior to
Right.
the salary cap. And that's something.
Yeah. I mean, look, money, talent and money, you get the right people aboard, they can produce winning teams. So, anyhow, we're running up on the time. Anybody else got anything that they want to throw in
I
there
have
as
one.
you have
And
one?
I just wanted to say, as again, fan of the team here, the Montana Senator Steve Daines wants the Washington's old logo when they were the Redskins to come back, not the name. I'm certain he wants it to come back in a meaningful way, whether that means on the jerseys or as part of like once a year throwback thing. He wants it back. I would love to see it as a fan of the team. I know that the name was in question as to whether it was insensitive or not. I don't ever think anyone said the logo was an issue. So like I said, I would love to see the logo come back. I hope it comes back in some sort of meaningful way for the fan base because again, I think when we look out on the field, I don't see my franchise. It almost looks like an expansion franchise, and that to me is, you know.
So he's holding it up, holding up everything.
So I don't know if
He
he'll hold up
he
the whole
he's
deal.
he can't. He has the power to do that.
Yeah, he can. Right.
They
It
need
has
his
to come out
signature.
of his committee, and he has the
Yeah.
power on that committee. I don't think he'll hold. I don't think he'll hold it up. I know that the Commanders have said that they're working with the Wetzel family to come up with something that works for everybody. So I know that the team wants it to happen, and so does the Wetzel family. So I think it'll get done, but I would love to see the logo come back in some form or fashion.
Anybody else? Okay. Well then, hey, this is another great episode of Commander's Justice. And yeah, it's getting close to the time. It's, and it's amazing how quickly time is flying by.
Yeah.
But now it's one thing right after the next. You got the draft, now you got OTAs, and then you're gonna
June.
have
Next week is June, right? Or this
Yeah.
weekend. Right?
Yeah. So it's getting close to that time, and our show will keep evolving, keep getting better. And thank you, fans, for being a part of it. What's the name of our sponsor again? Because it's a great guy.
Yeah. Alex Estill, he loves to sponsor the podcast. I can speak for him definitively.
Okay.
You know that guy?
And we like to work with people when they're looking to buy or sell or invest in real estate.
There you go. All right. Well, ciao. Peace. We're out.
Ciao, Bella.
Bye, everyone.